6 p.m.
Okay, so we're down. Is
No.
Aaron?
Aaron's here.
Aaron's here. Is Adam
No.
here yet? No, Adam. Mara is here. Megan's here. Bill Ian?
We do everything together.
Okay. All right. I'd like to call the meeting, the money managers meeting to order at 6:01. And okay, we'll do 6 o'clock since we did the roll call. Got it. All right. Anyway, so we'll just go down through the agenda. The Glenn had suggested, and I think this is a good idea, that we should sort of establish a money manager's charter, basically identifying who makes up the money maker. Because it was a bit of a question, and because different people from at different times, departments are not people, but departments have indicated that they want to be part of the process. I think I managed to invite everyone who has shown interest, but anyway, wouldn't be a bad idea just to make sure we properly identify the departments that should be involved.
Good idea.
Okay, I'll tell you the list that I have, and then if anybody else thinks I missed somebody, or they think somebody's on the list that, you know, they don't feel should be part of this process, let me know. The select board, accountant, treasurer, assessors, tax collector, project manager, library trustees, and finance committee. And well, I included the town coordinator under the select board umbrella. But
I
maybe
think
that-
the MLP we might want to add the MLP.
Okay,
The owl is making awful noise again. Can I turn it off and turn it back on?
Sure, sure.
I'll try the volume first.
Say speak.
It's not doing anything. Can you make a noise?
Hello,
some-
you want us to make noises?
Try again.
Hello, testing, testing.
All right, we're going off. We'll be right back.
Okay.
That's straight out of Star Wars.
Owl is glitchy. Maybe I'll talk to Andre about it.
Frozen.
Do we need a standby owl?
I don't know what we need, Dan.
Well, with Gillian's grant, we're getting other equipment, right? Maybe just a screen.
No, we're getting a screen, we're getting some additional microphones and yeah.
I think that'll help.
Yeah.
Hello, how do we sound now?
Good, good.
Good.
okay, so, all right, so we have that established. We're adding the coordinator and the MLP to that list. So has everyone reviewed the minutes from the September 21st
Can I ask
meeting?
another question about the charter, Carolyn?
Yes.
So I guess Nancy formerly facilitated these meetings. Was that in her role as the finance coordinator or as the town coordinator, or did it just kind of happen? Dan said that Nancy used to facilitate these meetings.
She did used to facilitate these meetings, and the question as to which hat she wore is a good one, not one that I have an answer to.
No,
So-
I think
part of the
she was
job.
being. I thought she was the finance coordinator and that was.
Well, she
that was one
was.
of-
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So, for example, if we got a finance coordinator on board again, would they be the chair of this meeting?
Yes, yes, so
Okay.
you're correct that that should become part of this section. So basically, the meetings, my understanding then would be that the money managers meetings would be expected to meet quarterly and be chaired and facilitated by the finance director.
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay.
And do we want an email list for this group?
Yes.
It's always good.
Okay, we can create one, so it'll have all the people on your list, Carolyn. I think that answers all my questions. Thank you so much. I was here for the last one and I probably had the same questions, but this time I thought I'd ask.
Okay, the minutes of the 2021 meeting. Does anybody have any?
And a question,
Yes.
they're in, under number 3, one of the bullets under A, says Phil can go over his projects with with. I
That's all
don't
it says.
know.
Unless anyone remembers, maybe we just strike that from the minutes.
I think we did have a lengthy conversation about the various funding agencies, and we talked about project funding.
So with the select board,
Arrangements that this was in the financial, in the money managers meeting last we had. So we just talked about all the different funds that had come into Wendell last year. I don't know if that's exactly the item.
I think this is asking when that the projects are discussed with, is it the select board or what, that you just don't determine the projects and make all the decisions about the projects.
That'd be nice.
I know.
I know, lot-
But I think
lot of
that was
those.
like,
Long
it
term.
was, right, it was.
I-
it was
yes,
stuff that maybe that's not.
Okay, so I did and have given reports to the select board. And I've been coming to each of the select board meetings since probably May or so. And that has included every time is a update on different projects.
right, it's more, I think, just a question, because in the minutes, it doesn't say, it says Phil can go over his projects with blank. It doesn't say, so,
I don't know what to say about that.
right, so either way, we
So-
just maybe strike it or
Okay,
select, I mean, he has been coming to select board meetings, but.
all right. All right, then, should we vote to approve the minutes of September 21st? All those in favor?
You have a motion and a second just for the notes.
Oh, yes.
I move we approve the minutes from
I'll second.
September 21st.
Gillian will second.
Question, now that we have a charter and we know who's sitting on the committee, are we all voting members? Is that the idea for this committee?
Well,
We're all active members? I just want to know if I need to raise my hand when you say approve or not,
yes.
Yes, okay.
Because technically or theoretically, I suppose I should say, that we'd all be at these meetings. So when the minutes are approved, it would be everyone
Okay,
who was at the meeting should be involved in approving the minutes.
Well, is the one question there, is the project manager listed on the list of money managers charter?
Yes.
it's actually project coordinator is the.
Oh,
Okay.
is that the
document,
correct
And
term? Oh, project.
Okay, but that is on the list, Carolyn?
It is.
yes.
Okay. Then, yeah, you have a vote, Phil. Sorry to say.
No, me, Dan, I never want to speak out of turn.
Okay, so all those in favor of approving the minutes for September 21, 2022?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
All right. Number 4, the highway department staff wage / benefit discussion. I believe the FinCom had questions
Yeah.
regarding this.
Yeah, we did. It was like we answered them, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
And you voted to increase the wages, right?
Yes, the select board at their December 21st meeting voted to increase the truck driver wages to $25 an hour as of December 31st. And the other questions I believe you had to do with benefits.
Yeah, we were wondering about full compensation, right? So when you talk about wages, generally that's just a part of your full compensation. So if you're trying to assess like if it's equivalent to someplace else, then we should be looking at full compensation. So that's why we're just asking, were there other benefits? Were there other things to consider that might be different? Again, I think we voted for it already, so we're fine. I mean, we're in favor, I think, of the increase just based on the value of the employees, but obviously just wanted to consider the matter carefully because it sets a precedent for other, other personnel that work for the town, so.
Phil?
I'd like to add that you said around the list from the FERCog about wages, and it's woefully inaccurate.
Right.
But I put at the bottom the update you gave me. Did you see?
Oh,
that?
maybe I didn't look far enough. I'm sorry. Just I didn't want that to be our only source
No.
of information.
No.
Oh, okay. I didn't go far enough then. Thank you.
So
I'll
the-
withhold
to
my-
be clear, the analysis that I did of the FERCogs from the information that I took from the FERCog survey, it was from their 2022 information, and where Phil was able to have from either advertisements for positions or where I was able to find more current information that's changed since July 1st. I indicated that
Thank you.
at the bottom of the chart because things have changed dramatically from July 1st till now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, and does anybody else have any questions about that whole business?
I guess, Carolyn, my only question would be, since we raised the rate for the truck driver, are we pretty good? Are our rates looking competitive with the other towns?
I believe so, unless some other town does something wonky that, now that we're not aware of.
Okay.
An example, Dan, might be that Orange is currently 23.56 through 25.74. So we're right in that range. Leverage right at 25. There was an ad for an Orange driver a couple of months ago that was much higher. So maybe they were going to have an assistant supervisor or something. But I think we are good now, Dan. We're right in the range
Okay.
that other towns are up to.
Great, thanks.
And can I just ask, based on what Megan said, are you aware of how the benefits compare with Orange or other towns that we're looking at to compare?
So, let's see. The only thing really that fluctuates much between these towns is perhaps the percentage of health insurance that's covered by the town
At retirement.
at retirement or even during, like New Salem covers at retirement, they cover a larger percentage of the health insurance premium. And I'm looking for Orange. I don't know who put this together. Let's see if I can find Orange to answer quickly.
This is, I think, a great spreadsheet. Or just summarization.
So Orange actually pays less for health insurance. They pay 70% for both current and retirees. So we are ahead of the game in that regard. The other thing I've noticed in some towns, and Leverett's one of them, their superintendent is salaried, which means, yes, he might get a guaranteed little bit of a bigger annual pay rate, but he was not eligible for any overtime when it comes to snowstorms and everything
Oh,
else.
wow.
They're they're, other truck drivers, they are hourly and they do get overtime, but.
Okay, thanks for that,
So-
Carolyn.
Mhm. Okay, so next, if we are done with that discussion. Oh, the other thing you asked about was licenses.
Yeah, and we were asking that question to help bolster the case for, salary increase. So I know there's the categories that we have, but if people do other or additional things or invest in other and additional licenses, then we thought obviously that's a factor and to be able, it assesses competencies, right? And so you could have one job title, but if you have these additional competencies, we thought it would help for the case to increase the salary. So that's kind of why we were asking, just as a differentiator to get them where you were looking to get them. So
And,
answered that they did, basically.
and just to note this,
Mhm.
the select board did vote or approve last year that as opposed to having, what's the term for what, the partial pay when you start somebody?
Probationary.
As opposed to having the probationary period, which seemed pretty punitive because we're hiring people with licenses and experience, or they wouldn't be hired. And they were getting started off at quite a bit less than someone that's been in the position for several months. So the select board did agree that we could have a range to hire within as opposed to using the probationary period. So we didn't include that in this recent thing, but the road commission will bring that back to the select board, say. But it holds true that we don't hire people unless they're fully licensed and experienced. We try not to.
Okay, so they're already gonna come in at that,
Yes,
at that level of
Yep.
high competency,
yes.
and therefore should have the pay.
Okay, so unless anyone has any other questions regarding the highway department staff, that number 4, we'll move on to number 5. The ARPA update, and I'm hoping Aaron can speak to this as far as what the available funds might be. I know, Aaron, you don't have the total revenues for FY20. But I took the last expense report that you provided and I added in this year's revenue and I came up with a deficit. So I'm kind of hoping that.
Yeah, I just have revenue posted through July, so anything that came after that. But yeah, that's what I was concerned about with the deficit. We need to make sure that everything that's getting submitted has been run by the select board and approved and everything before it gets paid. As of just for FY23 alone, I have $294,571 expended.
And am I correct that the balance coming in as of July 1st was 124,064.69?
Yeah, that was the FY22 ending balance that rolled over.
Right. So for July 1st, that would have been. That's what we started fiscal 23 with, correct?
Yeah.
And anyway, so since then, we have received an additional 131,220.10 in ARPA, that money that specifically came through the state that said it was ARPA. Sometimes I'm not really sure what the state funds are for. They're not very clear in identifying them. But anyway, if you add those two numbers together, subtract the expenses we've had so far, it leaves us with almost a $40,000 deficit. So.
Yes, and I also wasn't sure, are there any other earmarks that should have been coming out of an earmark instead of the general like ARPA fund?
Other than the tractor,
I just have the brush tractor as an earmark.
okay.
So we did, I'll just throw in what I have for information regarding projects and spending. In the Kentfield Road project, and I'll go back to where I mentioned before that I've been turning in spreadsheets with the conversations with the select board since early summer anyway. But I've got a $96,000 line item that has not been paid yet, by the way. Yeah, yes, it has been paid. A $96,000 line item that came out of ARPA. And I'm pretty sure, Aaron, if you may recall that I hand in these spreadsheets and we're doing invoices or we're processing invoices. Does that
Right.
sound familiar?
Yep.
So I'm not sure where that fits into the current conversation, but for me, that's always felt like we haven't fully connected on the project spending, but the information's been out there and listed. So I want to, in fact, I spoke with the FinCom about it last night. It'd be nice to have, more of an inclusive conversation about these funds that we're using for projects. For instance, the Kentfield Road Bridge got a $500,000 grant, but right from the start, we knew that it was going to be about $96,000 short, that 500,000. So that was listed as an opera expense. So again, I'm not sure how this fits into the conversation about where the deficits are or who's got the correct records, but it must be somewhere we can sit down together and kind of.
Erin has, she 100% has the expense line, and she's still working through posting all the revenues from that I've given her. So that's why she doesn't, in her records aren't showing the FY23 receipts. But I went back through my cash book today, and that's how much we've received, and the two figures just.
And it's still a negative for you. So
Yeah. It very well can be wrong because, perhaps there's things that have been expensed to that account that really should be from something else. That's why Aaron's asking if there's something that should have been paid from an earmark that she's posted to the ARPA account. Aaron, perhaps whenever you're able to, if you could send one of your detailed reports
Yep.
for the ARPA account from whenever it started to current. And
I
then
could do-
maybe we can look through that and.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering, so when the expenses get approved by the select board, is anyone keeping track of what the total ARPA amount we've been given is based on what the total for the projects they're approving costs?
I think we've known that we kind of need to pull together a group to track the ARPA grant more carefully, and that group hasn't gotten together yet. So maybe that's something that can come out of this meeting. Maybe, I think was it Gillian who was designated by the select board, and myself and Phil, can't remember who else we were saying would be on that little group to track.
It
all
might have
that.
been me, not Gillian.
Oh, okay. The total amount, it was 262,440. And half of that came in FY23.
Yeah.
So
Did the
That's right.
select board vote on the Kentfield Road Bridge? It's not something I remember, but it might have been a long time ago.
I'm sorry, what was that? Was that to me?
This, I guess, or whoever remembers the Kentfield Road Bridge. I guess I don't have any memory of voting on ARPA funding for that.
No.
But that doesn't mean it didn't happen.
I don't know if we did. I know that we voted on the contract. The select board voted on the contracts. The select board approved, for instance, the two increases in the contract for the Mormon Hollow Bridge. And like I say, these spreadsheets have been out and around for better part of 6 or 8 months. So it's good that we can sit down and sort of come to a real understanding of where they are and make some adjustments while there's still something left there. But
Well, even if my deficit's wrong, if the total anticipated ARPA funds were 262,000 and the expenses for this year alone are 294,000, there's definitely a deficit in that account. So until the ARPA situation gets sorted out, I don't see how anything else can be committed to being paid out of that account.
Right, and my concern is we've committed already some other expenses from that.
There were a
Well,
couple of votes. Sorry, a couple of votes where we sort of named several different, potential funding
Options.
sources. Oh, I guess it would be critical to, once the vote went through and then the final decision was made at a certain level, we need to make sure we know what that final decision was.
Well, why don't we start here? I'll get the report from Aaron. And then I can get with Phil and sort of compare and then get that information to the select board so you can formulate a plan moving forward.
And also.
Or in the
check-
finance committee,
Yeah,
sorry.
no, no problem. Also check what you already have incurred to that, just to double check there wasn't.
Yes,
something
yes, yes.
Accidentally, or that could.
Okay, does that sound like a plan to you, Aaron?
That sounds good, yeah, and I mean, I kind of think maybe if anything else comes in, like for this warrant for ARPA, I'll just put a hold on it or something, just because it looks like it is definitely overdrawn at this point.
Okay. So, anybody have anything else to say about that at this point?
Yeah, I just
Well,
wanted
just-
to mention that the culvert is further down the agenda, but we have that repair bill, of course, that 90,000 or so. And we were looking toward ARPA for that, but we sent that over to the FinCom. I'm not sure if FinCom discussed this, but it sounds like at this point that the stabilization fund might be the best source for that. If we're really questioning this unfortunate total on ARPA, in which case maybe that should be on a special town meeting to withdraw that money from stabilization to pay that bill.
Are we gonna talk about the culvert now?
We can you jump to that?
I think it'd be good to.
Either-
s-
yeah,
No,
either
I think
way.
it just makes logical
Okay.
sense.
The FinCom did talk about it last night
Are you-
and
Sorry, so you, I'm just checking in, so we're moving on to the culvert now. I think it might be useful to stick to the agenda if we can.
okay,
just
Well,
'cause I
the
know it
only,
goes with a lot.
the only reason would be is the culvert is associated with the ARPA situation.
Sure is.
So maybe we should move number 8 forward. Is that okay,
Okay.
Glenn?
Sure, but for next steps on ARPA, can we identify that group and stay on after the meeting to figure out when we're gonna meet?
Sure. So
Yep.
you, Aaron, me, and Phil. Does that work?
And Lori,
And Lori. Sorry.
great.
This is for the future conversation about the ARPA?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Megan.
okay, so Phil, let me just jump to my notes here. Phil came to our meeting last night and explained sort of or summarized the meeting that we had on Friday. He also presented the spreadsheet that he emailed the group, which outlines sort of where, he had thought about, these funds could come from to cover the cost of the culvert. We looked at the spreadsheet, we talked quite a bit about it, and after Phil left, we did approve a motion basically that we recommend, and this is gonna be very specific, so I don't know, you might want to write this down, but we recommended, and we can look at that spreadsheet after, that 350,000 come out of the chapter 90 fiscal year 22. 204,000 come out of the storm damage. 88,701 come out of the winter recovery wrap DOT item. And then, not knowing this situation, the ARPA situation, that 127 come out of ARPA. And that was based on the spreadsheet where Phil has a sort of what was available based on expenditures already. So I don't know if you guys want to look at that spreadsheet, but basically it's just slightly different from what Phil presented. And that was basically to not pull the 19,547 out of the highway budget, but to take that instead out of that winter recovery, which bumped that number up by that amount because that has a time limit and the funds were there and it seemed appropriate. So that was what our recommendation was. So in relation to ARPA, you know, on that spreadsheet is 127,000, and that's what we had recommended to come from there as well. So that may have to be revisited now.
So just to
Yeah.
say, the spreadsheet that Megan's referring to, I have a copy here, and I think I sent it on the email today. Prior to this iteration, that ARPA money had not been delved into for this project. We had all of the costs covered for the Mormon Hollow project in FY 22, chapter 90, storm damage and the winter recovery money. So that was, obviously, I have a different understanding of ARPA expenses that have already been submitted, so that's where I still showed that as available. And other conversations that led me to understand that that's eligible for the culvert repair. So if we're putting a break on ARPA, which we are,
Just
then
until we get an understanding.
then we need to refigure that and.
Yeah.
We all, and I agreed with the FinCom that we talked about stabilization, that we'd leave that completely alone if we had that option. But
Yeah.
just as a matter of,
Yeah,
preference.
we consider that sort of a last resort.
so have we switched items now? We're on the culvert conversation other than the funding issue?
Oh, we might as well finish with the culvert. So what else would you like to say then?
Well, I could start off with say I've been living with that disaster down there for about 28 days now, and fortunately, it's the erosion has stopped. We've got it under control as a result of Davenport putting in a culvert, a huge catch basin of plastic and sandbags around the entryway for the culvert. So there's no more damage taking place. That's the good news at this point. I did consult with FERCog today and explored the option of perhaps going out to bid again, because that $84,000, just a number, it's a huge number that's come from Davenport. It's just come, I don't want to start, I'm not trying to cast any negativity to this conversation, but it's just a number. And if we had that kind of a number on any project, you know, the brakes would go on and we'd look at procurement and we'd say 3 sealed bids, you know, all the other requirements that come along from state guidance. So, and based on our conversation Friday, there's a real concern that we've had one failure and we're in the midst of now deciding whether or not to hire the same contractor to repair it, who is not taking responsibility for the damage. What happens if it happens again? You know, and I just think that it behooves us at this point to look around, take our time and come up with a plan. unfortunately, the state mandates this contract to be our DCAM certified. And one contractor pointed out to me today, well, the other contractor was DCAM certified, and look what good that did us, but. So we're kind of in a place where this is not a joke, and it needs to get done, and the only number we have so far is $84,000. I have a lot of trouble just saying, okay, go ahead and do it, and there's another $84,000 spent without any kind of process, any kind of accounting, and any kind of guarantees. So that's all I guess I'm saying is that we're slowing down the rush to get the repair started. The engineer and the contractor are still discussing not so much responsibility, but acceptable methods for repairing it now that all the structure's in place. Because the time to do this was before the culverts went over it, before it got covered in, before it's very difficult access to the project. So there's a lot of considerations with the repair.
Phil,
Yes.
is there, I know it originally you had a lot of concern about the weather and if everything freezes and that Davenport said that what they have done was sort of a Band-Aid. So I guess I'm curious if you really, sort of what you're thinking about how long we could wait before we do something. Like, do you really think, can we wait till the spring or summer?
You know,
'Cause I-
everything, everything you said is certainly a consideration. If we were frozen solid now like a usual winter, we wouldn't be thinking about doing this now. The weather's been unbelievable for the winter. The ground is not frozen. There's no frost to speak of. And if we took all that out that Davenport put in last week to safeguard from further erosion, we would be exposed should a big storm come up. And that's going to be true anytime they get into it. I'm not suggesting that we hold off indefinitely. I've only just found out today the other adding, looking for other people to bid on the project is not going to be a simple solution. It's not going to be an easy solution. That would be very time consuming. We're not eligible as an emergency anymore because there is that repair in place. There's no immediate danger or immediate risk taking place. So it's a decision. I'm, relying on the engineer and Davenport to come to agreement, which they are still in the final stages of. And if we just decide to go with the $84,000 expense, everybody's in place to just start the repair. And the weather seems to be cooperating unbelievably. So the decision should be made, or it needs to be made soon. Do we just go ahead and repair it and spend the money? Or do we back a little bit and look for further assurances?
And put it out to bid.
I'm sorry, what, Dan?
And put it out to bid again is really the alternative, right?
Well, it is an option. It's something I wanted to look at, but again, the timing and the length of time that culvert is exposed is concerning. If we knew we had a week of weather without a hard freeze, it'd be time to say, take all that stuff that they just did last week and get that cement repair into the underside of those footings right away. That would be an additional safeguard against further damage. And we may well do it. And I know that the select board voted to spend the money, so no one said anything different. That's still there. That's on the table to go ahead and spend the money. So as soon as the engineer and the culvert and the contractor are agreed on all the details, then we say go or hold off. It's there's nothing else we have to do contractually with Davenport.
We don't have to do anything contractually. There's no warranty in their
There's no what?
There's no warranty in their contract. The contract is, you consider the contract to be complete then, so it's not like if we go with another contractor, we're not trying to exit out of a contract, perhaps not in accordance with the conditions of the contract.
Well, I still have the same concern that we're liable, it feels, we're vulnerable. If we've got a contractor who everyone felt good about and still some do, and he argues that it wasn't his fault, that he was only following the engineer, we go for it, we have him do it again. But I guess here we are paying a second time to have the stream bed put in. And I don't know that we have any more guarantees the next time than we had the first time.
Do we know when contracts are put back out to bid, how often they come in less than what is the cost of what's being proposed now? Like if we put it out to bid, what is the chance someone's gonna bid on it for an amount that?
I can't.
Right, I'm
can't
just
answer.
wondering, because they'll know we're in a desperate situation, and I just wonder about that, and would it make sense to potentially hire an engineer or a quality assurance person to oversee the work, since we have concerns about both parties? I mean, so I
Well,
don't
we-
know, and I don't know what that would cost for hours, and so sure it wouldn't.
We have an engineer in place who is not DCAM certified, and that's an issue that the contractor has raised. And there's no guarantees. I work in, we all do, if you're in contracting, everybody works in this arena where the state mandates all of these procurement steps. There's no fudging it. It's, sealed bids, it's anything over $50,000. There's other requirements, it's the bid bond, it's all that goes with it. If it was just a smaller project, we could have a lot more leeway.
Yeah.
And if we made the determination not to, just municipalities in general are required to follow those steps. It doesn't matter where the source of money is. So I wish it was more certain. I wish it was more absolute one way or the other, but I think we're just gonna have to decide to go or not.
But so Phil, can this be considered just a change order in that sense? I guess I'm a little confused as to whether you think we truly have to go out to procure, or we get to decide. If it's a
No,
change
I
order,
don't
we wouldn't have.
I don't believe we have to procure. We've already got a contractor that's been hired and advertised, and this is an issue that came up during the conversation, it's just like a change order. Andrea Woods, I just speaking with her today, everyone has an idea about accountability and responsibility, but if we approve a change order for them to go forward on this repair after the plans are all finalized, I mean, it's almost like saying that we accept responsibility for the first damage and don't hold them accountable.
Okay, so it's all about
Is that,
whether or not we want to not have to
Yeah.
pay for that.
Has there been any guidance from legal? about how to
not yet.
proceed?
I sent Attorney Dineski the plans, the contracts. I can't imagine, maybe someone knows better, but I imagine that's gonna be a process that takes years, not weeks. It's not gonna get decided immediately. So I don't think there's any guarantee we're gonna see anything back. I don't think there's any guarantee that $84,000 is the final number.
And did we didn't have to pay any extra for the engineer to engineer this fix, is that correct?
Excuse me, say that again?
The engineer isn't charging us more money to do,
Well, he hasn't said he's not. And certainly it's more than what he's contracted for. I broached the subject with him yesterday, and we were planning to discuss it further today. But he had to go on a different project. We're gonna talk again tomorrow, but he's doing a lot of work, and he's redesigning the culvert just because it needs to be done at this point. We haven't talked about money or anything further with that. So there's not a lot of good news, except that there's no damage taking place right now.
Well, it's
And
a
we have-
very, very tough situation, Phil, and thanks for all your work on it. It's tough. Been tough.
absolutely.
Okay, well, like I keep reminding myself, we all do the best we can here, so. we'll get
And we're
through it.
still waiting, are we still waiting on the final plan from the engineer at this point?
Yes. Even today, Davenport came back with another another change or another kind of an objection to something that's in the design, so it's gone back again. So they're having these conversations about details. And that's a good thing. I wish they'd done it the first time around, but here we are. So I believe we're going to get it right. They're going to get it right. And I think Megan's question about having a third party, someone on hand to kind of step in and oversee, but it's more money. You know, if you're going to have someone with any kind of qualifications to do that.
But if it's somebody who is sort of up on how to deal with a situation like this, like a recovery kind of situation,
Well,
It might
you'd have to be a
save us money.
qualified individual to,
right?
you know, be able to step in and say, no, that's not the way it needs to go and do something different.
Mhm.
There is unfortunately a lot of variables in this. It's, you'd think it'd be simple, put down a stream bed and watch the water run over, but there's a lot of variables. And having all that stuff that's in there from the first installation is complicating it. So are you meeting tomorrow, the select board?
Yes.
I will hopefully speak with the engineer in a lot more detail, and I will have a conversation with Davenport in more detail to have a better sense of where they're both at by tomorrow.
Okay, thanks, Phil.
Okay, good, thanks.
Okay,
Okay. Anybody have any other thoughts or comments on the Mormon Hollow culvert? All right, well, we'll go back in order. Number 6. I wanted to give an update on the situation I'm having with the Swift River Windows and Doors project, which has been completed now for over two years. But the School Building Assistance Bureau, they came out in September with their final audit report of the project and, you know, what their final numbers were as far as what the cost of the project was, what the town's eligible costs were, and the amount that they had and, you know, would pay to the school district for that project. Subtracting those numbers would have been what the towns of New Salem and Wendell would have been responsible to pay into the project, which was far lower than what we had originally voted for, which was great. However, over the years, the towns have been asked to pay to, Union 28, because they were overseeing the project, certain sums of money. And the bottom line is we actually have overpaid, and which was not known until we knew exactly what the state was paying, you know, going to ultimately pay, consider eligible expenses. I have been trying to get this resolved with Union 28 now since, I think, October. And I finally, last week, Caitlin Sheridan has agreed to set up a meeting for the 26th of January at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, in case anybody wants it's through Google Meets, it's not Zoom, it's Google Meets, but anyway, to discuss the issue. And the problem is that her predecessor was not the best record keeper. And so they're having a hard time, even though I have reconstructed the entire project in a spreadsheet and documented every payment the town of Wendell has ever paid into this project. They are having a hard time matching that with their records because they can't find all of their records. So I guess the reason I'm bringing it up here is I kind of would like some maybe guidance, whatever, from perhaps the select board and finance committee about how hard to push this, because it's not the Union 28 who will have this project audited under their watch or under their books. It's the towns, because the way the original town meeting voted for this project, the towns were the responsible party for borrowing the funds. It's unfortunate that the finance director at Union 28 at the time chose to ignore that and do his own thing. But he's gone, and we can't do anything about that now. All we can do is try and pick up the pieces. But I have talked to Tom Scanlon about it, and his recommendation was just to keep pushing them to get this resolved. But after the 26th, if I still get that we're at a stalemate, I mean, we have to do something because they owe us over $15,000.
We written any letters?
Oh,
Lots of letters. I was like, oh, that's the starting. Yeah.
emails,
Yeah.
emails,
Okay.
yes. I have emails, spreadsheets.
Yeah.
I mean, you name it.
Yeah.
I have.
Well, thanks for
Is it-
pursuing it, Carolyn.
Is New Salem having a similar issue?
Well, as Gabe stated in the last email exchange, she really kind of relied on me to put the project together, which I did. The only piece that I did not know until last week, and it was exactly how much, I knew all the expense side because, 50/50. But I was not clear on exactly what New Salem had paid into the project because anyway, I don't know why the numbers are different, but the numbers are different. But last week, Gabe sent me a report that Aaron had generated indicating what they paid in. So I plugged those figures in, and it looks like they owe New Salem some money, but far less. It's about $1,300. And that's basically because the last time a request for funds were made, New Salem just didn't pay them anything. So otherwise we'd be in the same boat.
Who is Gabe?
Oh, Gabe Volker, the treasurer for New Salem, but I think she's retired.
Not from New Salem, but from
Orange.
Orange.
Oh, okay. I saw that. She works in a lot of different places, but anyway,
So how much are we looking at possibly having overpaid?
$15,462. So, and my concern is how the school's going to come up with that money. I mean, they shouldn't be adding it into the school budget somewhere else. I just want, because it's not a school expense. This was a mismanaged project expense.
And is
So
the school
anyway.
committee been aware of
I
all
was-
of this?
Well, the school committee was made aware of it a long time ago when I started this process, but not recently. And I was waiting until after the January 26th meeting to see exactly whether, as her current email is, we're at an impasse. I'm hoping after the 26th and the conversation that we have, that we will no longer be at an impasse and we'll have a plan for moving forward. If she still feels when I say she, I mean Caitlin, if she still feels we're at an impasse, then I will involve the school committee.
Great.
So
Thank
anyway,
you.
I don't know if anybody else has anything else to say about that. But. Okay. Let's move on to project manager update on anything other than Mormon Holocaust.
I think we've covered. We've had some nice comments and compliments, appreciation noted for the new bridge at Kentfield Road. Not many people get over to see that, but that also was done by the same contractor. It came out very nice, and that's all 99% finished. We have a small amount of funds retained on that one for environmental pickup. We have the tree cutting project underway at the landfill. If you recall, that process has to end up with the landfill recapped and all the slopes around it regraded to a gentler, kinder slope so that people can maintain them with a grass covering. So that means all that area outside of Rats now that is all tree grown has to be converted to no trees, regraded, and grass somewhere in the next year and a half or two. We got $75,000 from the state in the form of an earmark that has been contracted and approved. I talked to, I'm gonna say half a dozen different people about doing the tree service. We finally got Dave Wilder Jr. He's over there with his equipment, working on his own. And he's taking the trees out as we need them to do. So we can, then the next step is to move the wells in, do the water testing. Once the water is approved, then we can get the final plan for the capping, which should be fairly straightforward. No one expects any surprises. This is a 20-year-old landfill that's been covered and no evidence of any kind of leakage or anything. One other piece we're doing, and I'm asking a surveyor, Alf Barry. He surveyed the land just to the west of the Rats last year. And I'm just thinking it's being prudent to make sure we establish that boundary clearly on that west side. That's where the wells are going in. And we also are looking at the future wood processing site for the wood farm. We're calling it something else with the
Wood bank.
wood
Okay.
bank, right? So that's sort of in the works, but not necessarily. We may extend this current project out to the back with his a total of 12 acres to work with. We're just had the conversation with the highway crew that we got to focus on which roads to pave this year. That's something we've been talking about. We've put off for a couple of years because of other things coming up. That's all that have been really active for projects currently.
Phil, I can't believe how much stuff you do.
Agreed.
Really. Thank you.
Why, Dan, why?
Can you getting enough rest?
I'll tell you a little aside. I actually slept in my bed last night for the first time, and I've tried it a few other times. I've had a cold, a lot of congestion, and I can't lay down without coughing. So last night
Oh.
I spent a full 8 hours on my bed.
That's
So
good.
how's that, Dan?
That's good. Keep it up.
Okay, I'm good, thank you.
That doesn't need to go in the minutes.
Are there reporters listening to this?
All right,
Mhm.
so anybody have any other questions about town projects? Okay. Moving to number 9. So I put this on, I've had people or departments come to me, especially now that it's budget time, wanting to have a very clear understanding of what should be including in their budgets as far as utilities, upkeep on the buildings, projects to be done on the properties, such as, for example, the library, and whose responsibility is the playground, budgetarily I'm talking about, and repairs to the building. And I think it's my understanding from the finance committee, as we're going to continue the utilities for all departments will be centrally processed through, Glenn will be putting, well, between Glenn and myself, we still have to work out, but that's between us. But they will come out of a common budget. They will not be allocated to each individual department. So all of the departments need to know that and have it made clear that that's not something they should be including in their budgets. So that's the utility piece.
And that's oil and electricity
Oil and phones.
and phones.
And
Yes.
what about the
Oil-
building maintenance?
Well, we're not there.
Oh,
Oil, it's oil, electricity, gas. And
Electricity, gas,
telephone.
and telephone.
Yes, okay, so those 4 things. Now, moving on to buildings. So what's the deal as far as building maintenance? I don't know. Who knows?
I know that Doug and I think other people had this conversation over the years. And that we actually, I think in the highway department had building maintenance removed from our budget and transferred in some capacity to the FinCom. And I thought there was some kind of a fund or access to a building maintenance fund that people could apply to for different projects.
Yeah.
We do have a building maintenance fund.
I was gonna say, I can look, I mean, I've been on the board for less than a year, so, but I
Yeah.
mean, I have access to our file here, but I don't have any
Right,
previous
and-
history, so if somebody knows.
Erin's still on. She might be able to pull it up faster than me. I don't know.
For town building repairs.
Building repairs.
Yeah,
And
Budget
it's a fairly
40.
substantial budget, right?
Yeah, it's for $41,860
Yeah.
as of this year. Yep.
Yeah, so I think that really is intended to cover all town buildings.
Yes,
Um,
I think so too.
I
think
can
So
ask
just a,
to where it's.
one example on town projects was we did the paving at the library last year. And then we had the issue in the cellar where there was moisture and paint peeling. So we were going to just paint the cellar, but then we investigated further and found out the drainage wasn't built very good and there were no gutters and it needed some work in that area in order to keep the water from getting into the cellar continuously. So we did that. And that was an opera expense, by the way. But in the course of that, we got more familiar with the exterior of the building and there's some work that needs to happen to that building.
No,
Similarly, the highway barn has quite a bit of exterior deterioration on a lot of the trim boards. So these things can add up, but we should, if people are aware of it, we could start to make that a more specific list, but.
We've had brief conversations before, but I was wondering if we could begin creating like a capital improvements list. And so we could prioritize the sort of more emergent needs and say, all right, we have money to take care of those this year, or we have this much money to take care of this much this year. Next year, let's take care of this. Next year, let's take care of that. But I don't know whose job it would be to make those lists.
I don't mind taking that on. It's just, I mean, it's project environment, I mean,
Mhm.
coordination, but I'm not taking on doing the work, but.
No, but I think even if we could just compile a list and
But I-
prioritize.
And get people to give estimates, so you have sort of numbers, but like this building needs work on the outside. I know that someone, Dan, I think, has done a lot managing the town hall and the exterior of those buildings. They've been painted and so things have been happening, but.
Right.
Do we have an asset management list, like a list of the assets that the town owns, like this building? I mean, I know we have them in tax maps and stuff like that, but like each
I think,
building, I know you look after equipment, so I know we got that somewhere.
I had asked Jim Slavis to put something together. I think he's got it at least partially done. So that is a work in progress.
So,
Jim Slavis.
oh,
Going back
Yeah.
to the original
Some
question
districts, right?
about how those kind of gray areas when people are building their budgets. What
That's Phillips,
Miriam and I
you know?
met about the library and
Phillips?
basically she created a document that was like things that she knew the library paid for, things that she knew the town paid for, and then the question mark areas that she was going to bring to the finance committee. So
just trying to get on.
that could be an approach for other town boards, other groups within the town.
And then we can decide once we know what those particulars are.
Okay, I think Phyllis wanted to say something.
Oh, I was just gonna say basically what Lori said, that I know Jim has some, things from the library, the siding. There are some siding issues that need to be looked at, that actually, because it wasn't installed quite correctly. So I just would refer Phil to contact him, basically.
Can I propose, I guess, for our purposes here, and trying to have all departments understand their role in kind of a common way, is that this year, whenever departments are submitting their bills to the or not bills, but their budgets to the finance committee for FY '24, that they be given instruction that it's for their departmental expenses, and any building repairs, that they should provide a list of items that they know need to be repaired on the building, and that list is just the list, not necessarily dollar values that go with the list,
Right.
because a lot of departments are not going to necessarily know, but that they give the list to the finance committee. And then from there, that gets distilled down and prioritized and helps you figure out what's the magic number to put in property upkeep. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
That sounds
Sounds
great.
great.
That way, like the library, they might know that they need new bookshelves, or they need the trim repaired, or they need whatever. But they've at least provided the list to the right department, and, can follow up as they go.
And maybe
So-
a next step is to have a bigger group take a look and maybe start the capital planning process of
Right.
what we can pay for this year, what we might put off to
But
next.
right, and I was just trying to, like I said, help the departments understand what they should be presenting as their budget, so that there aren't duplications. You
The
don't have,
expenses they incur, right?
Right.
So they're not incurring like a building maintenance expense, but we do need to account for that.
Right.
somewhere.
okay, so I will write up a memo and send it out to the select board and the FinCom,
Yep.
and we'll go from there.
Yeah, we're getting ready to send out our budget requests in the next few days. Like, we're just waiting, we're actually sent Glenn an email just to double check our contact list and make sure we're correct there. And then we'll be sending those out so I can make that comment. I think we're gonna email them, and then Thomas will put paper copies in the mailboxes.
And just a note for future reference and thinking about the future, just like Lori said, a group to look at the capital assets of the town and all the buildings and prioritize. So that sounds to me like a new committee. Capital Assets Management Committee.
One thing at a time.
We should have like QR codes available, and or just have a thing where people can take pictures and just email them, and then we know there's an issue.
Right.
Work on that. It's like, this is not right. Like, why is this grass is really tall? I think I noticed last year once. So yeah, that's for the future.
I have a question for Erin.
Go ahead.
Erin, just looking at the town building repairs line,
Yep.
there's a revised budget amount. Is that money left from last year?
Yes, I believe that was rolled over from the 27,000 is what was voted for FY '23, and then the 14 was rolled over.
So we have a little extra in there this year.
Yes.
And can we, if we choose to or need to, adjust where bills were paid from and vote to pay them from a different, like if we paid it from ARPA, vote to pay it from town building repairs?
Absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely. Good. A tiny bit of money.
Well, that's an example would be the library. We
Right.
spent $20,000 or $30,000 over there. I
Thinking
think.
we
I
had,
don't remember the numbers, but it was significant.
Okay, now, update on the finance director position.
Wondering.
Yeah, so when I went to the finance committee, we talked about it briefly, and then I went back to the select board and we talked about it briefly. I think we have to beat on some doors, or if anybody knows anybody who we might who has some experience, who'd be willing to attend some finance committee meetings, who, and I mean, also maybe become a finance committee member, because we need new members on the finance committee, but who might also like the role of being the finance coordinator.
And a couple
Is
questions
there
on
anyone
that. Is there a salary? And is there a
I
job?
think
There is.
$3,000? Is
I
this
think that sounds.
finance?
3,000?
I think so. And I believe Doug had indicated when he was doing it, it was a 5 to 10 hour a month commitment.
3,600.
And is there a job description?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you want me to
And-
send it to you?
Yeah, I'd like to see it. I can send it out to a couple people. I don't think I've seen.
Before when, sorry, when Nancy was doing it, or she was doing the similar type thing, or some form of it, was she getting paid extra? For that particular thing?
I think she
She
was.
was, but it was much less. It wasn't
Just
much
wondering-
over $1,000. I don't honestly remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I imagine her duties were much different as well.
She was more like managing the money managers. It, was more that rather than when Doug morphed the position into what it really kind of needs to be. And having that one person who is giving more specific oversight to these different funds. And I mean, that we didn't have all of this when Nancy was doing it
Right.
anyway. We didn't have all this. These different funding sources to try and track and.
My thinking is if we do have trouble finding someone, we could also just maybe have in mind a backup plan for something that might be a smaller role that we could put into place more easily if we needed to bridge time when we might not be able to find someone.
I think what's hard is I think once you get into it, it's like you get into it. It's a lot.
It's a lot of stuff, yeah.
That's, yeah.
Coordinating and record keeping and Excel sheets. And
I mean,
all of
basically,
it, yeah.
Glenn and I are sharing kind of the responsibilities that Nancy used to share, and then a little bit more. Such as, we're sharing the utility, trying to get the utilities sorted out and get that on track, which I will say we have done a very good job. And identified some problems and gotten them resolved, but it's more than at least I'm willing to take on, and I can't speak for Glenn, but yeah, I think we need somebody who can really oversee some of this stuff.
There was somebody who spoke up at a town meeting who said he was a retired school business official. And I thought, oh, I don't know who it was. Anybody you can think of?
So do you all want to do the promotion of the position through individual outreach, or do you want to post something on the Wendell email list, post something on the bulletin board?
I don't see any harm in putting it out everywhere.
Are we going to interview for the position?
Sure,
You got more than one candidate.
right.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe even if you do get one candidate.
Why
You gotta
wouldn't,
know them or not.
why wouldn't you interview?
And just confirming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to just appoint somebody. I'd want to
Okay,
have some conversations.
Yeah, so
Include finance committee.
Carolyn, should we essentially be following the personnel policy about hiring for new positions with doing this? Like,
yes,
Okay,
well, yes. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not a benefited position, but still the hiring process. So I suppose that answers that question. It's not a full-time position, so it doesn't have to go in the newspaper, but it
Okay.
can certainly be posted on the bulletin board and all the website and any other outlet that people are comfortable with. So.
I have a final thought if we're getting towards the end here.
we have one more thing
Different
to go?
subject. We all done with that?
No, well, but we have one more agenda item and then, well,
Where'd it go?
you can do
Oh,
things unanticipated. So let's just finish this. So is that it on the update on the finance director? That more a broader scope of posting the position is going to take place as well as individual outreach?
Yeah, that sounds good. And
Yeah.
just, I have it correct, it was 3,600 a year.
Yes.
stipend. Okay,
That's what we have budgeted.
And you're
Okay.
going to review the job description? The select board's going to review the job description?
Yeah.
Perhaps
And I just sent that to select board and to,
yeah, I
financial-
got it. Thank you, Gillian.
Okay, the last item on the agenda, we do have another item, but the last item on the agenda is an update on the tax rate. Poor Adam, I should have probably called on him sooner. He may not, is he with us any longer?
He had to
No,
leave
he had to
to
leave.
take care of an animal.
Oh, okay, so he,
He posted an
Ghost-
update in the chat, which I could read.
oh, good, okay, go ahead.
Hi, folks, I need to go tend animals who have been waiting patiently since this morning, but here's a quick update from the assessors. The estimated tax rate, subject to change pending DOR review, is $21.41 per thousand. The assessors are scheduled to present more information during the select board meeting on February 1, and I will be happy to answer questions then. Feel free to reach out in the interim or stop by the assessor's office on Tuesdays if you have any questions or concerns. I can just say Adam is great to work with, a good office mate and very diligent. Great match.
Yes. I can,
Yeah, the collector's office has been real happy with him.
oh, good. When he's here, like every Tuesday.
Yeah,
He's
Yeah.
very regular, yeah.
yeah.
I see he's here early too, because
Mm.
when I hit the school, he's here.
okay, we had one more item that Glenn had asked to be discussed under things that were unanticipated and unforeseen. So Glenn, it's all you.
That's basically a vote for the select board, so I don't know if we need everybody here for it, but it's basically for you all to vote to approve a contract with the FERCog for procurement services. I think Phil knows more about it or may be able to explain it better than I can, but it basically makes Phil a point of contact and kind of signs up for their services for procurement for highway construction, right, Phil?
yes, this is something that's gone on every year since I've been on the road commission. It's actually very orderly and well organized by the FERCog. Everything that we purchase goes through a bid process, from gasoline to sand for the roads to there's probably a dozen different things. So what Glenn is talking about, there's an agreement that the FERCog just published, and I think the assessment for the town of Wendell is $1,800. And she's asking the town designate an authorized signatory. And I've been doing that without necessarily being authorized for that purpose for several years. Anyway, so that's what Glenn's talking about. I believe it's a case of where everything that's going to be spent by the town, by all of the towns in Franklin County, most of them, go through a bid procurement process, and we get the best price for everything that we purchase. So that's the process that FERCog organizes, but they're saying they need a contract from us and we have to pay a fee for that. Is that?
Where
that-
we haven't paid a fee before. This is the first year we're having. to
I
pay a
think we
fee.
have. I don't think this is new, but.
No, it's not new. We
Okay.
pay a fee every year
Yeah.
for this. Yeah. It's really
So-
standard operating procedure, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, just
and I
need
think
you
what-
to vote to authorize the contract, and then I need two or more of you to vote, to sign it, hopefully tomorrow. I think they want it by the 20th.
Well, I move we approve the contract.
I'll second. And I can sign tonight, and Laura, you could come by in the morning?
Yeah, I can plan to come by in the morning.
Okay.
I think there was a date like January 20th on it that I think I saw an email. Says that she's looking for that contract back. So it's coming up.
I can also sign in the morning.
And then Glenn can return it tomorrow?
Yep.
All right,
Oh, I guess I'm
Unless-
supposed to be chairing now.
Yeah, just needs a vote, Lori.
All in favor, based on that motion? Aye.
I
Hi.
Okay, thanks.
thank you, Lori.
Like, who's gonna call for a vote?
Good job.
is there, does anyone have anything else they wanted to discuss for the money managers meeting? Phil?
Just briefly, it's actually, I'm going back to the culvert project. Just briefly, I've had 2 interviews by newspaper reporters, and I've tried to be as circumspect as possible. And I realize we're sitting in a public meeting, so I'm suggesting everyone do it likewise. But I'm also thinking that when we have our meeting tomorrow, that is it appropriate to suggest that we have an executive session, since this matter has a potential for being in litigation.
Yes.
That's something that we can discuss tomorrow, but I just wanted to put the thought out there that we should be careful how we discuss this publicly.
Can we do that without it being posted?
Yes, we can.
We can?
So,
All right, anybody else?
I have,
Yes.
it's more of a comment from one of the members of the FinCom. He remembers that we should have money from Seaboard Solar for net metering of a facility of a municipality. And he has asked if we know what the status of that is, but it's back from 2012. I'm just passing on that he believes that we should have money or we're owed money. But he's the only one, I think him and one other member, Seaboard what?
Solar?
Seaboard Solar for net metering. I
I
don't know.
think that company's
Yes.
name has changed to maybe C2 or something. We talked about this,
Okay.
Glenn, I
Oh,
believe.
okay. We have received
Nancy-
money for C2D3, it's like
Okay,
some robot thing.
okay.
C2.
R2D2?
Yeah, basically, it's
Star
like
Wars.
C2D, it is. I will go back, and I think their name may be even changed again. I haven't seen anything recently from them,
Okay,
but I'll look into it.
okay, appreciate it. And then,
And Nancy can help you if she worked a lot on making sure they continued to go by what they had promised. So it should still be coming without them notifying us otherwise, or,
I mean, we've had checks bounce from them. But
okay, That was it.
it hasn't.
nothing you want to say?
appreciate it.
Okay, anybody else?
yeah, I just wanted to, I had sort of thought the fire chief was gonna be on this agenda, I don't know why. But I think this can wait until a future meeting, but thinking about salary for when we need to hire a new fire chief is something that I think we need to start thinking about. And and the FERCog wage and salary comparison might be a good way to start thinking about that. And as we are also, getting towards budgets and other positions in town, I think it might be good to look through that, take a look at that and have that maybe be a part of discussion going forward.
Has it
think-
been determined if benefits are going to be a 50-50 split with New Salem, or is that still up in the air as to how that, or if it's going to happen?
It's, we're right now, it's pretty much gonna be 50-50. People, right now, we're drafting what the new agreement is hopefully gonna look like, and we're gonna talk about it at our next meeting.
Okay,
And it's gonna be modeled for the most part after Nancy's.
okay.
I'm wondering if we might
And
want
just think,
to.
I thought of one other thing, just so a wider audience hears it. We did receive a technology grant that we're purchasing some additional hybrid meeting equipment for the town and some consulting time to work on helping us prepare for a new website. Not money for a new website. We can't do that with that funding. But it's something that we're starting to work on and wanting to look at eventually budgeting for a new website. And which made me just think again about the IT lines that we have. And again, if we need to move some money from ARPA, we have money in IT where we purchase some things through ARPA that we might be able to spend from the IT lines. So just saying out loud that there's money there that typically is not being spent.
Yeah, I have an invoice from Entree for IT stuff. So should I charge that to the IT systems management?
Because it's been coming from ARPA.
Yeah, it's been coming from ARPA.
Seems like that might make sense, but I don't know who makes that decision.
I can hold off on paying it, but maybe maybe we need to ask for an agenda in the finance committee about that, and also about the plan for IT services, you know,
In the future.
ongoing. Yeah.
That's something that should be a
Yeah,
budget question. Yeah.
We talked about that,
Yeah.
and we actually talked last night that we were gonna make sure that whatever we get for budget requests, that we were gonna make sure that money was included, and we we're
Okay.
probably gonna reach out to you directly, and just make sure it's in something, the cost
Uh-huh.
estimated, and
Okay.
we'll figure out where. we want to.
So there's $7,500 in IT systems management, and it looks like nothing's been spent from that.
Does that fall under a certain department?
I think it hasn't been spent for a long time, so if it's under a certain department, I don't think they know they have access to it.
Because that's who
Yeah.
would be able to approve
One of those things.
using it.
And is it the finance who makes those determinations of which department kind of, or the select board, which department, which account?
I don't know who makes that decision.
Well, if I could make a suggestion, I think the group that's going to review the ARPA spending and status, that perhaps we should do that first, see exactly what's been allocated under the ARPA funds. And maybe from looking at that list, we'll be able to get a better sense of what projects those payments were really for. And then we might have a better idea of if there's a list of entree payments, then, and we do find that ARPA is overspent, or we need true ARPA funds for other projects, then we can request that Aaron transfer those expenses to the IT line, or, you know,
Right,
whatever.
right.
But I think
Make
we
a lump.
need to start with first figuring out the ARPA account.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we'll then go from there and see what other sources of funds are available.
So the entree bill, should he pay it or should,
If he pays it, I would pay it from the IT expense. At this point, my opinion is any
No
ARPA
more
spending
ARPA
should be frozen.
Right.
Until we know what's really up.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah,
Right,
Aaron,
that's
do you
right.
agree? With the account, I'm just, that's my opinion, but the accountant is the,
I do think it's overspent.
That's
So-
not,
okay. All right.
All right, I'll charge that to IT systems for the time being. I'm wondering if we want to schedule our next meeting. We want to meet quarterly.
Good
What
idea.
about Tuesday, April 18th? How does that look to folks?
That's soon enough if we have to have, I don't know, still don't know enough. If we want to have like budget preparation, is that a good time? April, like, I don't know the time.
I think it's fine. I mean,
Okay.
once we get the updated contacts, we're gonna give people 3 weeks, knowing that some people may just need a little longer, some people may be ready to go. And as those come in, we'll schedule, the public meetings to have folks come in so we can start talking about it. So hopefully certainly by April, we should have everyone's information and be working through some of have a list of questions if we haven't. So,
Okay, so April 18th, Tuesday at 6 PM. And plan on the same situation, that it's a joint select board money manager meeting, and it can be hybrid in the select board office and via Zoom. Fair? Okay.
That's tax
Yeah,
day.
that-
Does it matter to anybody? Just checking.
I don't know if the rules are gonna change around
Being allowed. to have
remote
hybrid-
meetings, but maybe it doesn't matter if they're hybrid.
Yeah, and by then we
I-
might be able to meet in the main meeting room because that's where the tech will
New
be
equipment.
going in for the,
Well, we have time to change it. I'm just trying
Yeah.
to sort of lay it out.
yeah.
It's 6:00.
Yes.
Thanks for putting all this together, Carolyn.
Yes,
Oh,
thank you for your
yeah.
initiative. Organizing.
Okay, and I thank Glenn for taking the minutes, because I know that wasn't easy tonight. We covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would like to adjourn the money managers meeting, and thank you all for coming. And it is,
And I would adjourn the select board meeting if there's a motion.
I'll make a
Right.
motion to adjourn the select board meeting.
And the money
Second.
managers meeting, and I
And
second.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Thanks, everybody.
And a few of us were gonna stay on to try to get a meeting for the ARPA schedule, is
Yes.
that correct?
No,
That's right.
yes, and I'll be right back.
going
Where's she going?
private time.
Glenn, you had shared with us a little presentation about the different chunks of money at one time. Can you put your hands on that and send it back out to us?
Sure, you mean the, the presentation on the ARPA funds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I come up with that we should have $369,000.
Oh, no.
No, it was
But-
280 or something like that, I think.
It's 262,440.
Okay.
Huh. I'm going off of
Megan-
something.
Megan
I'm
gonna
going-
stay? Was Megan gonna be part of our ARPA group?
oh my gosh, our garage.
Yeah, hopefully.
That's great. That's great.
Okay.
Am I part of this? I was just finishing up my meeting minutes. I don't know. Am I supposed to be part of this?
I think they want it in terms of planning.
Okay. all right.
I think we're waiting for Carolyn to come back from a bio break.
And I'll wait so we can shut
No, no,
everything
no.
down.
You signed, you did the right. you did the-
Thanks, Gillian.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Don't forget to sign that contract, Gillian.
Thank you for the reminder.
All right, so the purpose of this little core group is to establish how we're going to approach the ARPA situation.
Was this something that I was involved in, Carolyn?
Oh, yeah, Phil is supposed to be there too.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
want to schedule a meeting about ARPA.
Okay.
So
Who's,
maybe we start with Erin's availability. Erin, should we be aiming, I don't know if if we could ever do it on a Wednesday when you're in the office, how late you're usually here,
Yeah, I could do it on a Wednesday when I'm in the office. I'd like to be finished up by 2:30 if
or.
possible.
might not work. Carolyn often can't do meetings. that
Time of
early.
year, I can be more flexible, so I can,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
Works for
otherwise,
me.
Mo anytime.
Morning even.
Well, Erin has to work, when she's here on Wednesday, she's working on the warrant. Well, are you in on the opposite Wednesday, Erin? Do you come in?
No, I'm in Northfield the opposite Wednesday.
Okay, all right, so it has to be a warrant week. And about what time do you feel that you're comfortably finished with the warrant?
Good clock or
I'm sorry, what time?
work? 1 in the afternoon?
At 1 o'clock, okay.
Could you do that,
So,
Lori? Is that too early for you or?
I could probably do it,
Okay. Do we want to look at?
but what about Megan? Is Megan part of this group?
I mean, I can't guarantee anything at 1 o'clock, but just go ahead and pick a date. We'll see. I mean, I doubt Thomas could either. Maybe Al could attend. Yeah. It just depends on what date you throw out and if I can block it in my calendar.
Wednesday, February 1, would that work? That's a week from tomorrow, or 2 weeks from tomorrow.
It works
Sure.
now. Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
Would it help
I
if you
know I
attended
have
remotely?
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it just.
Did you have a date?
Yeah.
too?
February 1st. It's a Wednesday,
Good.
1 o'clock.
That's
All right, well, we'll go with that. Okay, and we'll meet in, Erin, where's the easiest place, since we're going to be asking you to look at your records? So
Probably
you're
right in the
gonna need
office.
to, do you want to
Everyone-
just meet in our office?
Yeah, the office would be good if we can all fit in there.
Okay, so we'll meet in the accountant / treasurer office.
Oh, you're familiar with that office, Carolyn.
Okay, 1 o'clock to 1. Sounds good. But in the meantime, if you can still send me that report on the ARPA breakdown, that would be helpful.
Yep, I will do that.
And I just had Joy today was working on gathering all the invoices that have been paid on ARPA. So I can make copies of that and scan it, send it around to people so you can actually see the invoices.
Okay.
Right, well, I think we don't need to do anything further on this tonight, if that's all right with everyone.
No, yes, thank you.
Great,
Thanks,
All right,
everybody.
thank you very much.
thank you, everyone.
Good night, all.
Night.